Okay, here is the present battery bank in the mobile homestead. It consists of 8 T105RE Trojan batteries in 2 individual banks, so that's 450 amp hours per bank. And they've done really good. I mean, they're 8 years old. They're still working strong. We're going to use them in our workshop and set up a workshop system where we have lights and power and stuff like that. One of the things that I've got to update is I have 2-aught wire on each one of these battery banks, which has worked really well for me, but I'm upgrading and I'm going to put in another inverter, and that will be on a different video, so we'll visit about that later on. But I'm going to upgrade this to 4-aught wire. On top of that, this 4-aught wire has to be moved, it is going to be moved up to here because the L16 is going to sit about right this height here. And I'm going through and going to my inverter fuse and battery switch in the inverters that are on the other side of this wall inside the protected space. So I'm going to have to make a new hole and put the new wire up here for the L16s. Now the good thing is about this whole setup, I don't have to go dead in the dark with no power when I replace my battery bank, because these are 2 individual battery banks. They are linked, but I can disconnect them from each other. I can actually make this battery bank, these 4, go dark while that side is still hot, and vice versa. So probably what I'll end up doing is turning this battery bank off, removing these 4, and installing the first 4 L16 crown batteries right here, get my work done, and as soon as this battery bank is installed, I'll turn it on and then turn the other side off and do the same thing over there. And that way I'm never without power. And we'll show you guys that here in the next video. Okay, we have all 8 of the crown L16s in the compartment. They're not hooked up yet. We have our series connections and our parallel connections for both battery banks ready to go. I have already got 4 of the Trojans moved over and out of the way. They're hooked up still because I'm going to use that as a temporary battery bank until we get the new battery bank installed. I'm about ready to remove these 4 Trojans, and we're going to have to do it a little bit different this time. These batteries are just a hair bigger than the Trojans, so we can't run 8 across. What I'm going to end up doing is running 4 of the L16 crowns, and then in front of that have another 4 of the L16 crowns. So we'll still have 2 battery banks, we'll just have one in front of the other with spacing to allow for venting. I still have to get me another hole next to where I got that temporary wire for the other negative wire coming from the shunt. So 2 negative wires will come up from the shunts and go to each battery bank, and then I have to drill a new hole over this way on each side for the positive coming from the catastrophic or inverter fuse for this one, and then also that one way off in the distance is going to be brought over closer and go to the other battery bank, which is from the catastrophic or inverter fuse. So other than that, once we get the batteries took care of and the wiring finished, and I also need to make my 4-aught wiring that's going from the catastrophic fuses and from the shunts up. But we'll need to reprogram our solar charge controllers because the charge settings on these are a little higher by 1 point than these right here. These are right at 12.8, and these will be at 12.6. L16s have a different charge rate. You always want to make sure that you pay attention to the company battery company's voltage for their absorption charge, and also you might want to look up Handy Bob Solar. He really understands these lead acid batteries, especially on charging on these crowns. He's been doing it for a long time. He understands what absorption charge and how long it needs to be on. I do recommend, I'll put that in the side note so you guys know where to get a link to him. I've been paying attention to his stuff for a long time. Okay, we are inside the house and we're going down into the room where we have our inverters and solar charge controllers. This is our electrical room. And what I've got to do right now, I have my first hole up there that I'm drilling for the negative side, and I'm going to put another one right there. This is the 2-aught wire that goes to the battery bank we're using as a temporary right now. Now I need to remove this one, replace that with 4-aught, and then after I'm done, I'll replace that with 4-aught. Now I'm going to also have to come over here and remove this 2-aught, which goes to the battery bank on this side, and go in right about here to go to the new battery bank with a 4-aught wire. Same thing over on the other side. I got to repeat that step and have another 4-aught wire come into that inverter fuse right there. We call them catastrophic fuse because it's not just the inverter running off that, it's all the 12 volt in the house. Once we get that done, then we will be changing the charging parameters on this charge controller, that charge controller, and this one over here. And we are going to set up and hook up, probably not this time around, but pretty soon, this charge controller over here for a deployment panel system when we need it, when we want to use it. Okay guys, let's get to work. Alright guys, the battery bank is installed. There you go. I've got all my series and parallel connections hooked up. I've got both of my temperature compensation probes, one on each battery bank. This being the battery bank 1, and this is battery bank 2. As you can see, we've got both those grounds I was talking about going to each shunt for for each one of these battery banks. I've got my positive for this battery bank lead going in to my first catastrophic fuse, and then this one's on the other side and it goes in the same way. This is where the original 900 amp hours of Trojan, this is where the positive for this one came out. Got it filled up, same thing on the other side. I'm really tickled with it, you know, 1720 amp hours of batteries. These crowns, I'm beginning to like them a whole lot. You guys, you might want to think about if you're going long-term off-grid, these are pretty good batteries. But my next project is I'm going to make a cover on this. It's a dual-roll cover. The first thing I do is protect it from stuff hitting the batteries, damaging them, and hitting the tops of any of these so they won't do any cross-connection. And the other part is it's going to hold this bank in. A lot of people will tie them down, and I've tied them down for people. But in this unique situation, I'm working on a really limited amount of space, so I'm making a cover that will hold the batteries into position and also protect them. So that's coming up in just a bit. Okay, I've got the battery cover finished. Now, like I said before, it's built to both protect the batteries from anything hitting them on the top and hitting them on the sides and stuff. And it's also made so that it will stabilize the batteries so they don't fall forward or to the side, either way. It's made out of mismatched material. I had this plywood left over from several jobs where I've built boxes for people for their you know, their battery banks, lithium and AGM battery banks, and their solar charge controllers and inverters and stuff of that nature. So a little bit of it's mismatched. This panel here, actually, you remove it here, and this piece here, and this whole piece will come out, and then unbolt the rest of the top and the other side, and this whole unit comes out and goes that way. Look at that. We got us a chicken walking over in here. She must be wondering what's going on. Well, let's go to the other side and take a look at what I did there. Here, we'll close this up. Okay. What are you doing? Drinking my coffee? That's not too good. All right, guys. This here is an extra vent I had from one of the jobs that I was doing. And I'm using this for a vent to vent out any gases from the hydrogen gas that comes from these wet cell batteries. And then there's the hole on the other side, and I'm going to actually take the other side and either use a piece of expanded metal or something over there. And I think this is pretty good. It's made out of 3/4 inch plywood, so nothing's going to hurt it, not even that chicken over there. And like I said, you take the other end loose, pull it out, and this whole unit will come out this way. And then we'll be doing pretty good. The only thing left to do, well, except for getting that chicken out of there that's hiding back there, is to fill this up. There we go, it's finished. Everything's back in. Got my propane tanks all back in on this side. Now we've got another set of propane tanks on the other side. We actually run twin regulators with a couple of valves. That way we can have 4 tanks on this, 4 30-pound tanks. Also cut down this custom cover that I have for my hydraulic pump for the front landing gear here on the mobile Homestead. And I cut it to fit because this is wider. Got our stuff on top of that. All of our fishing rods are back in. Got a little extra space here now. Got to find out what I can put in here. Let me take you over to the other side real quick, guys. And got these 2 propane tanks all back where they belong. I got an area underneath of that custom deal where we keep little 1-pound propane cylinders, and also, you know, oils and sprays and stuff like that, spray cans and stuff. A little bit of camping gear. Like I said, our fishing rods are back in here, and I've also got this big old spot to fill up over here. So I got my work ahead of me. Guys, this is the end of the install video for this battery bank. I'm tickled with it. I just the next video that we're going to work on is going to be the setting up the solar charge controllers and the inverter chargers for this battery bank. And then videos after that will be you know, a video on periodically the condition and the pros and cons of this battery bank, and also a maintenance video. A lot of people don't know how to maintain a lead acid battery, and that's one reason they don't want them. It's pretty simple. You just got to pay attention and how they should be set up, and we'll work on that. We'll have those videos. And guys, you know, thanks for coming along. God bless and happy trails.